The 2023 racing season just ended with one last test in Abu Dhabi. Even though this test isn't shown on TV, it's super important for all the racing teams for lots of different reasons. This is why Russell's crash at turn 6, which is just one of many cool things that happened during the test, is really worth talking about. And the way Mercedes handled everything made other teams raise their eyebrows and wonder what was going on. So what exactly happened during this test in Abu Dhabi? And how can this test that seems not so important actually be really valuable for the teams? It's totally normal for Formula One racing to do a test after the season ends. They do this mostly because they're trying to see how fast they can make their cars go before they're completely done with the 2023 season. The test goes on all day with morning and afternoon practice sessions. And because no TV stations show, it doesn't get nearly as much attention as it should. Many drivers say it's really important for lots of reasons. First of all, many young drivers get to drive a Formula One car, and this is when the racing teams get to see if a driver has even a tiny bit of that special spark to be a future superstar. Oscar Piastri drove the McLaren car back in 2022, along with Nick De Vries, Theo Pourchaire, Logan Sargent, Philippe Drugovich, and many other young hopeful superstars. What's even more important is that if there's a driver who switched teams during the season, this is the first time they'll get to know each other with their new car. This happened with Gasly and Alonso last year. But not all 20 drivers have to take part. It's required for Formula One teams to give one of their cars to a young driver who has done fewer than 2 Grand Prix starts. This is pretty much like the FP1 rules. But it looks like even the most experienced drivers like Russell can make mistakes during this after-season test. This shows that this isn't just some boring routine thing after all. Now, according to reports, Russell crashed at turn 6, the same turn where Perez and Norris bumped into each other during the race. This caused lots of damage to the car. The pictures showed a completely destroyed front right tire that was covered with firefighting foam. This might give us a clue about the problem that ruined Russell's session, and that's the brakes getting way too hot. But this isn't what caught the media's attention the most. It was the fact that Mercedes covered up the entire car so that their rivals couldn't get a closer look at it. Even though this testing is officially for the 2023 season to learn as much as possible from what's left, the fact that the aerodynamic settings won't change until 2026 means that some teams are very likely trying out different things during this test for the 2024 season. This might explain why Mercedes decided to cover up their car. They didn't have the most wanted design on the grid, but they may have tried something totally new that could help them compete better in no time for the 2024 season. It's been well known that Mercedes won't be shy about trying anything possible for the upcoming season to try and catch up with Red Bull. And the first step may have been taken during this Abu Dhabi after-season test. Unfortunately, it didn't end the way the team wanted, and Russell's bad luck with Mercedes has just continued even longer. On another note, a couple of days earlier when Russell was talking about the Abu Dhabi race results, he said that he let the team down quite a few times during the 2023 season. The season ended with only 2 podium finishes, and one of them was thanks to this race and Perez getting a penalty even though Perez finished ahead of him. Either way, the gap that Mercedes needs to close is way too big. And even though most of the 2023 parts will stay on the 2024 cars, there's one trick that Mercedes has very likely used to help themselves. Teams aren't allowed to hide their new parts anymore. Not only that, they're required to show them to everyone and explain what they've changed in their new upgrade package. However, this rule is only valid during the racing season and not for the off-season testing. And with the aero rules staying the same until 2026, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the team has very likely tested some of the 2024 parts on the current version of the car and got some feedback from them. All of this came after a 25-minute delay of the after-season test, with everything being complicated before it even started. The delay happened because there wasn't a medical helicopter ready, and the teams were told that when they hear the helicopter, it would almost be time to start. This is a weird thing to say and shows that maybe even the officials don't understand how important this test is. Not only that, but there was a real water leak coming from the bridge near the W Hotel, which caused another red flag. Haas's official Twitter account posted about this problem until it was fixed. The drivers were already frustrated because they kept dealing with all kinds of problems until the test was done. And unlike most of the Formula One world, they don't think this is just one unimportant test that needs to be finished quickly in a couple of hours. Imagine being a young rookie driver wanting to prove to the world that you're made of Formula One material, which was basically half the drivers during the after-season test in Abu Dhabi, and you kept getting interrupted by silly stuff like waiting for the medical helicopter or a water leak on the track from a hotel above. This after test is very likely the first and only chance that some of the rookie drivers will have, and with only one spot open for the 2024 season, that of Logan Sargent, drivers like Frederik Vesti will give everything they have to prove that they can be considered as a real Formula One candidate in the near future, and Vesti did not disappoint at all. If we look at the results that came from the test, The Dane finished third overall in the entire day of testing, which was better than most of the other drivers. The Mercedes higher-ups will be watching the whole situation closely, and it seems like they're waiting for Sargent to mess up so they can prove to the world that Vesti is the next Liam Lawson under the right conditions. Beating Perez while driving 11 fewer laps is definitely something Vesti can brag about. So the situation for his future Formula One career has definitely gotten better after the after-season test. Logan Sargent has definitely understood the challenge to keep his seat, and his P9 result shows that he's trying hard. Albon is probably the biggest disappointment after finishing last and being beaten by drivers who sat in the car for the first time in their lives, like Franco Colapinto. Now, Esteban Ocon topped the timesheet with the fastest time after driving 110 laps, followed by another rookie Pato O'Ward, who filled in for McLaren. Teams that struggle with consistency were also looking forward to this test. Ocon said it's super important to fix all the weak spots of the car. Apart from Alpine, Mercedes struggled a lot with keeping their car stable and consistent. So the fact that Russell wasn't able to get more driving time out of the W14 is definitely going to hurt them going into the winter break. Speaking about how important the after-season test is for Alpine, Ocon went on to say, "If it was a weekend like Las Vegas, it wouldn't be worth very much for us because we were competitive. But on a track where we struggled that much, there's a lot for us to understand. If we can pick up something before next year, then it's going to be a good thing. So that's why the test is going to be super important. I'm already thinking about it. Already thinking about that 5 p.m. time when it's going to be almost dark and trying to figure something out. What's more important is for us to understand what's been happening this season. Quite a lot of ups and downs in terms of how well we performed and how fast we were. This is pretty much the picture we can paint for Mercedes. With the team winning second place in the Constructor Championship and entering 2024 with a little bit of a confidence boost, there's still a lot that the team would have to work on to catch up to. Red Bull, the first step was taken in the after-season test, and just like Wolff said, catching up with Red Bull is going to be against all odds, and it's going to be like climbing Mount Everest. But what he never said is that it's going to be impossible, and that his team isn't going to try to sew the cover over the car definitely has some hidden meaning. And with all the technical changes in the aero department that Mercedes has dealt with in the past couple of months, we're excited to see whether or not the Brackley-based team found some more with speed from this department. This is especially true after Wolff said that the W15 will have different airflow